today we welcome a true national icon. In her sporting career, she broke over 30 world records. She won 11 Paralympic gold medals. Since retiring from being an athlete, she's been a broadcaster, a coach, a motivational speaker, and a member of the House of Lords. In terms of cricket, she's travelled to India with Kapil Dev. She's accompanied Sir Ian Botham on charity walks and supported projects with Steve Waugh. She's been a guest TMS commentator. And now she's taken on a position on the board here at Yorkshire County Cricket Club. I'm sure you know exactly who I'm talking about. It's a great pleasure to welcome Baroness Tanni Grey Thompson. Tanni, it's lovely to see you.
Thank you very much.
Clutching cake.
I've brought cake.
Yeah.
Except you'll probably hear sort of the rustling of the packet.
Yeah. It's disappointing, though.
So I said I was going to make cake. Then I forgot, and I got to 10 o'clock last night.
Never too late.
And I realised I had crisps in the cupboard and not much else.
Never too late.
So went to the shops this morning. I'm feeling really guilty.
Yeah.
But
well,
you know,
should,
I've got Genoa cake, and I've got angel slices.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you had seen yesterday
the
assortment of cakes we'd had, the strawberry sponge that someone had lovingly made over several hours. I mean, it's very kind of you.
I feel a failure.
It's not. It is not essential to have to bring it, but, but it's the thought that counts.
You see,
and the fact you've been down there and whipped up a couple of Mr. Kiplings, honest, that's very kind of thoughtful of you, Tanni.
See, growing up listening to TMS, it was all about the cake, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why so I'm sorry. I hope I can come back and I'll make cake next time.
It's the rapport with the listeners sort of cake. It's that, that communication and the contact, not nipping down to Tesco's. However,
I'm sure they're lovely.
Someone will have them.
Yeah,
we'll take it down to the press
box. The guys will eat them here, won't they? Yeah, I'll check them out the window.
No. Hey, it's lovely to see you here. And I mean, look at the spectacle, and the thought that we said at the start of this game, this match might not have actually happened here at Headingley. What does this place mean to you?
So, my husband's from Yorkshire, and Yorkshire cricket was hugely important. My dad was a massive cricket fan, and so grew up watching cricket, listening to cricket. He actually didn't have his two front teeth because of cricket. He got smashed in the face with the ball. Really? Yeah, so he had false teeth at the front. So, I remember him coming home with missing his two front teeth. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh because I think it hurt quite a lot.
Well, I think it did.
So
was he batting or fielding? Or?
He was. Well, batting quite badly, I think. Yeah. Cricket was sort of all around. I grew up in Cardiff, and sort of, Glamorgan was sort of a big part of bits of my life. And so, the next story, if I tell people from Yorkshire this story, they think it's totally fine. If I tell people from outside Yorkshire, they think I'm slightly bonkers. So, living in the northeast of England, my husband would really have loved our daughter to have been born in Yorkshire, but for lots of reasons I had to go back to Cardiff. And as I was going in to give birth, he gave me some sticking plaster with some mud from the garden, Yorkshire soil, that I did actually put on my back. So our daughter was born in Cardiff, but on Yorkshire soil. So that kind of explains No, totally serious, totally. And I remember.
What did they think in the maternity ward, or the delivery suite?
So the anaesthetist said, "Why have you got a big piece of sticking plaster on your back?" Because of MRSA, and it's like, "No, it's fine. Don't just get the baby out of me." And because I was having a section, and. Then the consultant came in and said, "What? My anaesthetist is freaking out," and I said, "Oh, we need our baby to be born on Yorkshire soil." And he was like, "Oh, for God, And he played rugby at quite a high level, so he totally got it. Right. But you see, you're looking at me like.
Well, I'm just still trying to work this out. I mean, it's not.
It's not normal, is it?
It is. Yeah, but it's true, isn't it?
It's absolutely, totally true. Yes, totally. And so
that is devotion.
I mean, so when you say what this place means, it's like. There's something in the family blood about it. Cricket as a sport has that ability to just bring people together. I mean, look at all the people here today, and it's important for the future of Yorkshire because of the ticket sales and because of everything else. And actually, it's really important to remember the really good bits of cricket. And there's loads of good bits of cricket. But what we're seeing in lots of sport at the moment is we kind of need to refocus and we need to look at some internal things. There's lots we need to look at to make it the best it can possibly be. And that's why I wanted to join the board, because the amazing bits of cricket just pull people together in a lovely way. And you see, so, OK, I'm going to name drop here. So I've been sitting next to Dickie Bird, and I was trying not to be a total fangirl. I sort of just about managed it.
How is he? I haven't seen Dickie since, I suppose, COVID times, I guess.
He's great. He's really good, and having a lovely chat. And a mate of mine who's sitting sort of round the East Stand, I sent him a message, said, I'm sitting next to Dickie Bird. And he's like, yeah, so what? I'm sitting next to 4 of them. So he's sitting next to 4 young men dressed as Dickie Bird.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it as well. You know, I've seen some Flintstones.
Oh, yes.
I don't know.
Bishops, nuns
a pig,
with beards. When you name it, there's all sorts out there.
Yeah, and that's what... You don't get that in athletics.
No.
You know, you don't get the...
Wonder why not? Wonder it's about cricket then that brings these nutters out.
I think because in athletics, everything's like bang, bang, bang. You know, you've got a race, you know, you get a bit of a gap, you get another race. You don't get the moments sort of in between. And then you look down, you see all these little ones down, you know, they're doing some stretching and
they're
things.
warming up.
You don't get that in athletics either. So it's such a different type of crowd. And probably, you know, people, I think, are much more chatty in terms of, you know, just on the way in and the way out.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the atmosphere is amazing, and the noise is incredible. You can get goosebumps when you listen to those moments.
So what did Dickie tell you? Did he enlighten you in any way at all? I think he'd be quite confused about the way the game's being played.
We were talking about defensive sort of defensive play.
Yes.
We talked about the quality of the grass.
Oh, okay.
And whether it was too bouncy or not. And we were kind of laughing at when the roller went out, because my husband's with me as well. So I make my family sound like they're really mad, but we have to notice when my husband cuts our bit of grass in a different pattern. So he's quite obsessive about looking at what they're doing, looking after the grass. I mean, sadly, we don't have as much grass as there's here.
No.
We talked about Shane Warne.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, quite emotive, and, you know, just he was telling me all sorts of different times they'd spent together. Just really lovely.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an amazing guy who lived life to the full and burns himself out.
Touched a lot of people, Shane.
There's amazing people in the sport as well.
Yeah, yeah. And what are you going to bring to the board then? What do you particularly want to do here? What's your role going to be?
So for me, the work that I do now, and I've been doing for quite a lot of years, is around duty of care, about player and talent pathway. It's about how you bring young people in and give them the best experience. Now, elite sport's tough and it's hard, and, you know, it's kind of quite brutal in some ways in terms of selection and non-selection, and, you know, but it's how you can put duty of care around the players, the coaches, and give them the best experience that they can possibly have. So I've been working in that space for about 10 years, and it's about the cricketers at all levels. If they come into academy and they leave, or they play, you know, so whatever level it is, they're the ambassadors for the sport. And just over time, you know, it's hard because there's so much pressure, whether it's Olympic, Paralympic sports, cricket, football, there's pressure on winning, and that brings with it a culture which is not always positive. And we've seen it in Olympic, Paralympic sport. We saw the White Review in gymnastics that came out last week. I mean, some really brutal reading.
Yes.
And it's how we turn that round to make the best experience for as most people as possible.
Yeah. Were you surprised when you read that stuff?
No, not at all. I think it's hard when you read it in black and white, and it was 350 pages, and, you know, you're talking about children not being allowed to eat. It's nothing I haven't heard before or been told before, or because of the work I do. But when you see it in that kind of block, it's really hard. And it's okay. It's a really painful experience for a lot of people. A lot of people who didn't necessarily mean to do the wrong thing. But actually, it's okay. What do we learn from that to be better? Because gymnastics sport is brilliant for young people. I mean, Nelson Mandela back in 2000 said sport has the power to change the world, and it brings people together. You can use it as a tool of change, of, you know, crossing religious divide, and you name it. It can be that amazing thing, but it's got to be done in the right way. And I've had some amazing experiences through my career, and I've seen other people have amazing experiences of it being done in the right way, and that's what we've got to kind of embed in the system, because we want children to be fit and healthy and active. And the reality is, we've got a nation of young people who are inactive, who are more likely to die before their parents because of inactivity. In the 6-week summer holiday, children lose about 75% of their fitness. The idea that we all used to go out running and doing stuff all day long for the whole 6 weeks is sort of slightly nonsense. But But in
We were outside, though, weren't we?
Yeah.
Most of us tried to be outside.
Well, my mum chucked me outside, probably because I was too annoying.
Well,
but you know, in 2020, children were out of school for 29 weeks. So, you know, there's stuff we can do. And then, you know, the work of the foundation's doing in terms of summer activities, getting kids playing, you know, all sports, you know, thinking about how you educate children through the medium of sport. You know, there's so many opportunities to do things which are really, really positive. Yeah. And I say, you know, so the little ones down there now, you know, oh, look, I mean,
it's great,
actually, a couple of them are hitting the ball really well, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they are.
You know,
and right in front of the West Stand as well. They're playing quick cricket.
Yeah, like that. I mean, it's really nice. Oh, you see, it's really nice they're cheering down there for them as well.
Oh, they'll be loving it.
And, you know,
they're catching the balls.
And that's just lovely, isn't it? You know, one day, one of those young people might be playing here for real.
Yeah.
Because they've had that moment to be here. And, you know, can you imagine what it's like to be down there playing on this at that age? It's
the day you'll never forget.
Yeah, and their families won't forget. Their parents will be taking loads of pictures. You know, it'll be a huge moment for them.
Yeah. Did you feel when you applied that given what you said about a duty of care and so on, did you feel that the people here needed some TLC and a duty of care after what's happened here?
Yeah, I think everyone in the sport does, actually, because what's happening and what's happened at Yorkshire is not the only place. You know, this is, and that doesn't make any of it okay, but it's actually, the reason I applied was because of the opportunity to do things differently. You know,
and not the only sport, by the way.
Oh, not the only sport. You know, if you look at Olympic, Paralympic sports, there's been reviews. You know, we've had gymnastics, we've had cycling, we've had canoeing, we've had rowing. You know, it's across everything. So this is the moment. So, okay, what are we going to do differently? And, you know, I did a big piece of work for the government back in 2017 where I made a load of recommendations. Some were listened to, some weren't. And it's now another moment to say, okay, what can we do in a different way? And you need, however painful those moments are, and they are deeply painful to a lot of people, you almost need that moment to kind of press the reset button. And so actually there's a lot of people who need duty of care because the best bits of sport are worth it. You know, there's a price to pay for being involved in elite sport, but the prices we've seen being paid are not the right ones. You know, so I am optimistic about, but also realistic about, you know, the challenges, and, you know, culture change doesn't come quickly or easily, and people need to believe in it. But what I want is as many young people having the opportunity to play the sport, or, you know, what can we do with, you know, maybe women who've maybe my age, who, you know, we didn't play cricket in our school. Girls didn't play cricket. I'm 52. It's like, no, girls do netball, and they're amazing sports. They're brilliant, but why can't girls play football and rugby and cricket? And they're starting to. I mean, what you see with the women's team, you know, it's just. But there's stuff that we could do. Women my age who've never even thought, who may be a fan, that we could get them in. And, you know, we know mums and daughters playing together is a really good way to bring mums in. You know, netball have done some amazing things of women as sort of returners to the game. And I guess what I see is just loads and loads of opportunities.
Yes. And not just an elite sport. When you talk about the elite sport and what you bring here, but looking beyond the trees, into the communities, that's where the engagement has to happen.
Absolutely. And, you know, I've just started playing wheelchair basketball again.
Have you?
So the last time I played was when I was 13. Okay.
I've watched that. You must have some massive biceps under there.
So I wasn't very good when I'm 13. I am not very good now. I'm
skill in that and the strength.
And I play on a team with a bunch of 14-year-olds. And I was Mixed, yeah.
Oh.
I was playing the other day, and this little kid on the team said to me, "Have you ever played any sport?" Yeah, not really.
No.
And his mum was there going, "Shh." And but then I'd been back training for a couple of months, and I scored. And honestly, I was doing the full, you know, arms in the air.
Yeah. I
high-fived everyone. I mean, the little kids on the team were like, "Oh, well done!" And it's because the first basket I scored. And I remember one of the mums came over and she went, "You look really happy." I went, "I am really, really happy." And she went, "Well, you know, from your time in athletics, this can't be anything." I went, No, this is just that feeling of elation where I'd improved and actually managed to get the ball anywhere near the basket. But it didn't matter whether, biggest crowd I competed in front of was in Sydney in front of 110,000 people. And I mean, it wasn't quite the same, but it was like pretty good that you're thinking, I've done something. And you kind of want that to be... So the elite stuff is great, but you can have that at community. The thing about sport, you can have that feeling, whether it's community, grassroots, mid-tier or elite level. You have those amazing moments where you've done something really good.
I guess you're also very competitive, Tanni, to have achieved what you've achieved. And to celebrate scoring a goal at 52 or no basket at 52 against 14-year-old kids and going around high-fiving everybody. There's a very competitive streak in there.
Yeah, I should also probably say it as part of that. The referee of the game I played also took my team to one side and said they actually had to give me the ball at some point. And at half-time he tried to coach me. So when the referee... I mean, it's a very low-tier game we were playing. When the referee coaches you at half-time, you kind of realise that's a bit of a sad place to be. But, there's room for improvement, isn't there? There's places to go.
But I bet they were thrilled when they found out who you were, though, weren't they? When they found it was revealed who you were, or perhaps it was never revealed who you were. You just...
Yeah, I think some of the mums told them. But to be honest, I retired probably before some of them were born, so I also had one of them come up to me and say, I think you're the same age as my grandmother. Right, get your grandmother on court as well, come on then, let's go. So, I mean, but do you know what, that's so sweet, and I don't care whether they know what I did or not. It's like when you're in that team and you're playing together and whether you're playing well or you're kind of having to pick everyone up to kind of pull that, coming from athletics, which is you train in a team and you have a team around you, but when you're competing you're on your own. To actually be playing as a team is a really amazing feeling.
Do you prefer that to actually being by yourself? Do you prefer that team spirit feeling, all in it together, and the pressure of not letting your teammates down and celebrating someone else's success rather than yours, perhaps, in a team situation? Yeah,
it's in the team when someone's playing really well, it's great to be part of that, and you kind of hope you're playing well as well. And I mean, in athletics, you're part of a team because your medals sort of go towards the medal tally. And, for us, swimming and athletics, we're always competitive because we're the bigger sports and we wanted to win more medals than the other sport. And you kind of recognise in athletics, women, you can you've got a big team. Basketball can only win 2 medals. So, you are part of it. Athletics, you're part of a team, then you're part of the GB team. So... But it's different from when you're actually playing together and you pass someone, basketball, great shot, and you kind of do a layup for someone to score. I sound like I know what I'm doing. I really don't.
No, you're doing a good job.
But it's fab to be part of a team sport.
Yes, definitely, and everyone should be able to experience that. Everyone should have. We talked about engagement and encouraging people and breaking down barriers, perhaps. I mentioned about you going with Kapil Dev out to India. Now tell me a bit about that. I mean, why were you there and what was he up to?
So we're part of this big group of ex-sports people called Laureus, and we've also got Steve Waugh, Ian Botham, and Tendulkar's part of it, as well. So, and it's a slightly surreal group of people. We've got Martina Navratilova, and I mean, it's an incredible group.
Well, sort of figureheads. So
but we all collectively work together to raise money to put into projects around the world. We support about 200 projects, and I've been asked to go to Rajasthan with Kapil. Because we supported a girls' orphanage there, and so there's about 200 girls living in this orphanage. All had polio. I mean, really hard life for them. All been abandoned by their families because they were disabled. We went to the orphanage, and the girls didn't even have a chair each. They were sharing wheelchairs, and then sort of walking around between. So one would have the chair in the morning, one would have it in the afternoon, and another would have it in the evening. And they were all being taught to be teachers. And when I went to speak to the manager of the orphanage, she said, look, this is all we can teach them to do. And I said, well, what if they don't want to be teachers? And she went, no, you haven't got a choice, because this is the only way they'll have a job, and this is the only way they'll be able to support themselves, so they have to be teachers. And it was pretty hard, and they had a cricket pitch, and we saw the boys and there were girls the girls there, and there were boys who come into play as well, who were living in a different part of the orphanage, playing cricket. And then when Kapil arrived, it was just unbelievable. You kind of saw their faces, because he's just this like huge icon. And so,
you knew who he was.
Yeah,
Yes.
Absolutely. And he went and spoke to them, and you could just see what it meant to them on a personal level. And in this completely surreal situation, going outside and walking down the street with a couple, I was like, and I've been around some really, really famous sports people, world icon, but I've never experienced anything like that, where thousands of people came out onto the street. They literally poured out of homes, shops. I don't know whether people were ringing I don't know, but the whole part of the town was blocked, and we were on a street which was kind of like 4 lanes wide, and it was just stopped. There were just thousands, and people trying to touch him and and speak to him, and he was so calm, and I wasn't scared, but there were people kind of leaning over me to touch him, and he was so kind because he was kind of just asking people to kind of give me some space. But what it did for that local community was that they had a different view of the orphanage because he'd come to watch them play cricket. And the people who worked there were just saying they were then accepted by the community.
Really?
Because he'd come to visit.
Because he had simply...
Because this, he was there a couple of days, just this visit just made it okay. And because he'd spoken to the children and he'd, shaken hands with them, then that was just life-changing. And you go, that's the power of sport.
Yes.
When he probably gets it all the time, doesn't he? But seeing it from the other side, what he did for those girls was amazing.
Yeah. That's a great example, actually, of the way sport can help, and an insight into what these Indian superstar cricketers have to, how they live their lives. I mean, can you imagine living like that?
No, not at all. I mean, all I usually get, if I walk down the street, someone recognises me, people say things like, "Oh, the BBC have good makeup artists, don't they?" And you go, yes, they do. Yes, they. And it's like, "Oh, you don't look like that in real life." Yeah, well, I had someone do my makeup for an hour, so people are lovely. If you're in their living room, then they treat you like family.
Yes.
And they never mean to be rude. It's just they say things that my sister or other family members would say to me themselves. But that kind of fame is just...
It's on a different level, isn't it?
Different level.
Adulation. They're almost like a god.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. Talking of gods, you did some walking with Ian Botham too, didn't you? You joined him on his... Which trek were you on with him?
We've done a couple. The first one I did was through Wales.
Oh, really?
And Ian has a slightly different version of events. So basically, I did that day because it was the only day I could do. He very kindly tells everyone that I picked that day because it was the hardest day. And it's like, that's not true. But it was 26 miles. And I do remember thinking, I used to do marathons, and he walks quick.
He does.
But
it's a march, really.
Yeah, and, I think people think it's a bit of a stroll and they join us. But for me, because it was kind of slower than race pace, I wasn't used to being in my chair for kind of 6 hours. So I have to say, my back and my shoulders and everything were hurting a little bit, and there were some really steep up and down hills. I mean, so steep that some of them I actually had to turn around and go backwards. But I do remember at about 20 miles, someone giving me a bottle of what I thought was orange juice and saying, "Oh, have some of this."
Probably not on a Botham walk.
No, it was tequila and orange. So I being, probably slightly naive, thought, "Oh, a bit of orange juice, that's good," at 20 miles. Took a massive swig. And then it was like, and they all obviously laughed because they all knew. So yeah, that was my induction.
Yes.
But I mean, his walks are amazing, and I remember people being so generous, and the people carrying the buckets, people just throwing in money. And I remember walking past this one pub, and there's a guy outside, and he wasn't terribly polite to us, and then he threw an envelope in the bucket, and was like, okay, and he was like, "Oh, get on your way, get out the way," It wasn't really rude, but. And then at the end of the day, when they were counting up the money in the bucket, one of the girls doing it came and said, "Oh, that envelope?" He'd put a couple £100 in there, and you're like, wow, So I always think there's much easier ways that Ian could have raised money, but I mean, actually, what you did, seeing his feet at the end of the day. I mean, sorry, there were like blisters, lost toenails.
Yeah.
I mean,
it kept going.
And it was really good fun, actually, because you saw people drop in and out. And so I've done a couple of his walks, and Yeah, they're tough, but really enjoyable to be part of.
Well done for being involved. Tanni Grey Thompson is our guest here, taking a view from the boundary at lunch on the third day. A fascinating day's cricket. England bowled out for 360, and New Zealand have made it through to lunch 13 for no wicket. So they're 18 behind, with 10 wickets left, of course, and we've got about 10 minutes of chat still to go. So, well, let's get on to you, Tanni, because when did you realise, as a young girl, I guess, with spina bifida, that you could have a future in sport? And what were the facilities like for you then?
I was born with spina bifida, and I'm basically missing some vertebra at the back of my spinal cord, and so my spine isn't protected. And as I grew, so I couldn't walk very well at all anyway, because the spine was damaged. But then as I grew, my spine collapsed and my vertebra severed my spinal cord. And I always kind of smile when I say it, because it was like, there wasn't any pain, no suffering. I didn't miss a day of school. I just gradually stopped being able to walk. And my parents fought really hard to get me a chair. And that was life-changing. And not everyone who becomes a wheelchair user feels like this. But when I was trying to walk, my world was really narrow because I couldn't get very far. And I could probably get about 10 metres, which is no use to anybody. And then suddenly I had my chair and I could go wherever I wanted. So in the early years, it was just about being physically active, strong enough to move my chair around. And then, I started playing sport, and I swam, and I did archery, and I went horse riding, and, unbelievable. My parents could afford for me to do those things. And, then you realise actually there's a whole bunch of kids out there who can't do any of that. So again, that's why I'm really passionate about young people having opportunities, because it shouldn't be about whether your parents can afford it or not. And then it was because I played basketball really badly. My PE teacher said to me, go and do wheelchair racing because you can't get close enough to anyone to hit them. Basically, I've been in a fight on court with a boy. I hit him. I know, it's not good, is it?
What, with a physical?
Yeah,
a blow?
I slapped him.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, there's no easy way. So the referee said I punched him, and my defence was I only slapped him.
Were you sent off? Or?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a really important. Like, you should never let the emotion get away with. Get carried away.
How old were you then?
12.
Right.
Yeah, but you see, this boy on the other team had been really annoying. He'd been sort of pushing me and getting in my way and elbowing me.
Isn't that part of the wheelchair basketball I've seen? It's crazy.
It's fairly full on. But my PE teacher said, look, go and do wheelchair racing. And I'll be really honest, I kind of looked at it and was like, it's really boring. You just go around in circles. Yes. And then I tried it, and it was like, this is amazing. I love it.
Did you have a special chair at this stage?
No, not at that point. Just my ordinary chair. There were racing chairs, but they were really expensive, and none of the kids had them. And I remember just thinking, that's it. That's what I want to do. And it went from there. And I sort of, developed and won a junior title when I was 16, and joined the GB squad at 17, and did my first Paralympics at 19. And I mean, it was just to do something that you love is a massive privilege. But then I also say doing that comes with a responsibility. So the things my dad always said to me was that, you've got to compete for GB, you've got to pay it back, and we didn't talk about paying it forward then, but he always used to say to me, you've got a responsibility to try and give opportunities to other people. So that was sort of embedded in everything my parents lectured me about. My dad used to lecture me about everything. And apparently he also told me at 21 I was going to end up in the House of Lords, and I don't even remember that conversation. So when I got there, he just said, you knew you'd do it. Okay, thanks, sir.
But these medals, I mean, 11 gold, 13 World Championship medals, 6 London Marathon wins. I mean, it's a remarkable achievement level, that. You think, what kept you going? Just more?
Wanting to be the best I could. So Mum and Dad were really different. Mum wanted to know, had I won? My dad wanted to know, had I competed well? And those are two really important things, because you can kind of win when you're not the best, and all sorts of layers beneath there. And so I loved competing. I love training. I love travelling. I got to travel all over the world. It's one of those things that wherever you go, there are people you know, because you get to know people through the world of sport. And I just wanted to be the best I could. And then the point I retired was I didn't think I could get any better, but also I was 37. I was probably physically quite broken. Mentally, I just couldn't. I'd always been able to, at that point, look 4 years ahead. And I remember, actually, it was Athens, thinking, I can't do another 4 years. So I did take about 18 months to retire after that, to be really sure. But I wanted to do other things. And then by then I was working on the bid and the delivery for 2012 games, which was amazing, and hard work. And I just wanted to do other things with my life.
As an able-bodied person, I can't begin to imagine the effort and the strength that it must take to wheel a wheelchair around the London Marathon. I mean, how do you train for that? What are your hands like? Are they sort of calloused and?
Well,
I mean,
we were doing 150 miles a week training, and then 6 days a week in the gym. So, to be honest, it's not. I mean, it does hurt, but not in the same way as someone who's not trained. So, we'd do a marathon. I think I did about 75 marathons in my career. You do a marathon, you'd have the next day off, and then Tuesday you'd be back training again. So, my fastest marathon was 1:47. So, you're not out there for that long. So it hurts. But I look back now. There's a bit of me when I turned 50. I thought I might do another London Marathon. And I got in my chair and I was like, I'm not doing that again. And they're trying to persuade me to do it when I'm 60. And it's like, I really don't want to do a marathon when I'm 60. I mean, fair play to the people who do it, but
people run around in fancy dress outfits and all sorts of things.
I did a 10k last year, locally to where I live, Redcar, and oh goodness, the first kilometre was amazing because it was downhill with a tailwind.
Well, see, that's cheating.
Yeah, and I was like, this is brilliant. And then I hit the second kilometre and I was like, right, I don't want to do this now. And my husband very kindly was on his bike next to me, so I couldn't work out my mile times because I was going so slow. I've never had to work out mile times, even going back to when I was 13, never had to work out mile times that were that bad. And then he was very kindly telling me how slow I was going. So my 10k time was 4 minutes quicker than my half marathon personal best. And he also pointed out, in my better days, I'd have been 11 kilometres further down the road in that time. So no, I don't feel the need to kind of do it again. No. Being active is really important to me. And I do a lot of stretching and a lot of flexibility, and I still, daily activity is important, but I don't feel the need to get back in my racing chair and try and do another marathon.
Oh, you may never know. You never know.
Maybe.
You're always trying to prove a point, I reckon. So, but what about the Paralympics? I mean, do you think that the image of the Paralympics has improved, changed, developed over your time?
Yeah, I mean, London was amazing, and when I knew we were going to bid for the Games, we in reality we had to bid for the Olympics because you bid into the IOC, and parts of the IOC don't really care about the Paralympics. And I was in Singapore with a team. I'd worked with them all the way through, and Tessa Jowell, who's amazing, the night before we were doing our final bid, she said to me, I want to be on stage tomorrow and I want to say the 60 days of the Games. I want to recognise the Paralympics. And everyone said to me, I shouldn't do it, but you must think we should do it. And I remember this moment saying, I would love you to do that, but you can't, because we've got to win the Olympics. We can't let anything detract from that, because then that's the only chance we've got to do in the Paralympics. And the Games were amazing. The team were just, stunning people to work with. And it did change, the profile and the people. It didn't change the world for disabled people, but you can't expect 10 days of the Games to do that on its own without lots of investment. But there were just so many just amazing moments from the Games that, London did itself proud, and I think the UK did itself proud, because everyone said we shouldn't bid because it was Paris's turn and we wouldn't build it and we wouldn't do this. But it shows if you come together in teamwork and you bring people with you, you can achieve incredible things. And the legacy there now, the park is just stunning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
I'm sitting drooling at these cakes.
Shall I take them out of the packet?
Well,
I don't have the receipt, you can't return them.
No, but our time's coming towards an end, that's the trouble. I just can't wait to dive into that.
Shop-bought cake.
What do you hope is going to happen here? Just a final thought. Yeah, it is at a crossroads, isn't it? And there's a lot of water to go under the bridge yet still. But given what you do and your specific sort of strengths, if you like, what would you like to see from your perspective here at Yorkshire over the next 5-10 years?
We can't underestimate where we're coming from, but we need to learn and need to be better. What I want from Yorkshire is it to be an amazing county, to be open to everyone, to give opportunities, and to show the world, what an amazing thing sport can do. And then the competitive bit of me, just want Yorkshire to win. I mean, that's okay, but do it in the right way, So I've got to add that bit in for my husband.
Yeah.
So but you just want it to be that kind of beacon where people want to come, either as a player or a spectator, fan, whatever, because we've got a great culture here.
Tanni, it's lovely to see you again. Thank you so much. Thank you. A lovely chat. You're going to find Dickie again?
I'm going to go give him a bit of advice on cricket. Yeah.